Lawyers, what's a law that isn't real that normal people insist exists? No laws against driving barefoot. People that think it's illegal to be videotaped in a public space. An arrest isn't magically invalidated if the police don't read you your rights on the spot. There could be a whole thread of just misconceptions people have from watching cop TV. Miranda rights protect you from self-incrimination when being questioned by the police for a crime. It doesn't mean they have to Miranda you the second you get arrested. If you aren't questioned, then it doesn't apply. People also think it's illegal not to let them make a phone call after being arrested. It's federal law in the US that a plainclothes or undercover police officer has to identify themselves as law enforcement if asked. No, it's not the law, and they can tell you whatever the duck they want. In the UK, it's not illegal to park on someone else's driveway. It's classified as trespassing, a civil offense, not criminal, which means the police can't do anything. This particularly surprises people as many think that they have exclusive rights to the parking outside their house as well. It's a law that exists but widely misunderstood as the concept of entrapment. If the police put a bait vehicle in a high crime area, that is not entrapment. If the police are watching a bar known to overserve to see if there are impaired drivers at the end of the night, that is not entrapment. Entrapment only occurs when a gov agent suggests committing a crime that you were not otherwise going to commit. This actually happened to an old high school teacher of mine. He thought he was going on a date with a lady he met online. When they met up for the date, who happened to be an undercover officer, she was like, "I'm not really interested in a date, but for $, I'll do." To which he obliged. He was charged with soliciting a prostitute, but the charges were dropped, since he was only actually interested in the date and had no desire to solicit anything until the officer brought it up. Probate attorney here. I've had many people ask me when the reading of the will is going to take place. I explain to them that only happens in movies, but one of these days I am going to have one, and hire a mysterious blonde wearing a veil to sit in the corner quietly. Then I'll tell everyone that she inherits everything, provided, of course, that she must adopt the dissident's cute but troublemaking 6-year-old child no one knew about, or she can spend the night in a haunted house. Her choice. My dad spent his whole career doing probate and can't count how many people have inquired about the reading of the will. I believe on a couple of occasions he's actually staged them, because it was the only way to get the whole family to come sit down in a room and actually listen to what the ducking will says. And why not do it if he can bill the estate for the hours it takes him to clean up the conference room and then read a piece of paper at a bunch of morons? Edit. I just talked to my dad on the phone and brought this up, and he pointed out another reason that he's sometimes asked to a reading of the will, if the deceased has chosen to leave a lot more to one heir than to other heirs. Normally the winner wants the stage will reading so that the losers all find out in a ritualized way from the lawyer in a formal law office, instead of from family gossip. It makes it feel more official and, in my dad's words, the rest of the heirs are a little less likely to pull out the revolvers when they find out mom did have a favorite. Driving with interior overhead car lights on is not illegal. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Kind stranger. My first. Your mom told you that was illegal when you were a kid. 2. Huh. In California, it's not illegal to discuss your wages with your coworkers, despite what your boss might say. Edit. I'm a lawyer in California. I assume it's the same in the other 49 states, but don't want to speculate. It's actually not illegal anywhere in the United States to discuss wages or join a union, contrary to what many employers may claim. I also strongly recommend you do both to protect yourself and your colleagues from being taken advantage of. Edit. As many commenters have noted, it's not only completely legal to unionize and or discuss wages, but it's actually illegal for a company to attempt to prohibit either, and being fired for unionizing or for discussing wages is grounds for a wrongful termination lawsuit. Know your rights. Don't get screwed over. As a former lawyer, UK, I lost count of the amount of people that thought jaywalking was a crime, unless it's a road that specifically states no pedestrians or a motorway. No such offense exists here. Edit. To clarify, I'm talking about it not being a crime in the UK. It may well be elsewhere. Australia, USA, Germany and others. in the UK that it is illegal to drink under the age of 18. You can buy alcohol with a meal at 16, beer, wine, cider, and you are not breaking any laws if you give your child some alcohol in the privacy of your own home and they are over the age of 5. Edit. At 16 you have to be accompanied by an adult and it is paid for by the adult. Thanks you Kellisk. My father who is a lawyer. Policemen cannot lie to you. This is false. They can and they do. Edit. There's so many replies that I cannot even find some of the ones I'd like to respond to, so I want to leave a general note for those who have asked for a reference. Frazier vs. Cupp is the Supreme Court ruling that affirmed the legality of deceptive interrogation tactics in 1969. The ruling is still active. The one that is the most frustrating to me, even though it's not really a specific claim that a particular law exists, more a rule of evidence, is that's just hearsay. You have no evidence. Comes up all the time, in all kinds of contexts. Even lawyers love using it when it suits them. Nothing but hearsay and speculation. Usually, what people mean when they say that is don't believe them. They're lying. Which, fair enough. But that's not what hearsay means. Lots of evidence is just a person talking. That's what a witness is. It's why testimony exists. It's not evidence just because it's a person talking. Hearsay just means that in most cases, you can't have person A say that person B said this in order to prove that this actually is true. Hearsay. Get it? I heard B say it. It just means your witness can only talk about things they actually know about. And, extremely importantly, it also doesn't count as hearsay when person B is actually the person on the other side of the case. Person A is totally allowed to say person B told me yes, I will commit the crime on Tuesday if person B is the defendant, who has been accused of committing the crime on Tuesday. You don't get to complain it's hearsay if you're the one who supposedly said the thing they heard. US. Ex-lawyer here. There is no law that requires the police to provide you with their name and badge number when asked. There may be internal policies, but it's not the law. There is also no law that requires the police to get a supervisor if demanded. Again, policy versus law. There is no law that allows you to question whether an order given by the police is lawful or not. A court has to decide if the order was lawful after the fact, but there are laws to punish you if you do not comply. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for the good conversation and gold. Truly honored. Quick updates. Someone pointed out that in NY there is a law that requires cops to ID themselves and have a card, which is fantastic. Thank you for correcting the statement. A lot of folks seem to be concerned that no law meant no rules. So to clarify, a lot of things are actually managed via internal policies. Those policies usually have teeth. So no, the police are not interested in just violating them and losing their jobs, etc. Last note, thanks for the civil discourse. A lot of these threads get reduced to flames quickly and by far the comments have been productive and thought-provoking. You guys really are awesome. I've tried to respond to questions and will continue to as long as you think it's useful. Second edit. Since this has come up a lot, I identify as an ex-lawyer because I do not practice law anymore. Attorneys are admitted to practice law under the rules of the bar in their state bar. I left the state that I was admitted to when I changed careers and did not maintain the continuing legal education requirements to maintain my standing with the bar in the state that I left. Nor did I seek admission to the bar in my new state. I am technically ineligible to practice until I complete ClearX and recertify with the bar of my old state. But I have no intention of doing that. So, in short, ex-lawyer. Thanks again. Sovereign citizen stuff. I feel like enough folks have claimed to be sovereign citizens that it's become normal. But no, generally you can't declare yourself exempt from the laws in effect where you are. My first job while in school was as a law clerk was to respond to pro se writs of habeas corpus from prisoners. One of the first ones I was given was to respond to a guy that claimed he was falsely imprisoned because he had sovereign immunity. He had changed his name to Jesus Christ and claimed that because he was the sovereign, he was not subject to our laws anymore and needed to be released. I remember being very flummoxed on how to respond. I spent entirely too much time on that reply. Even though many people think so, there has actually never been a Danish law allowing you to beat up a Swede with a stick. If he should walk across the ice on Øresund during winter, But even though the law has never existed, doesn't mean it shouldn't. You can go 10 over the speed limit. My dad thought this was true as he was new to the country and quickly found out by a speeding ticket that it was not. Edit. I'm now realizing that this may vary from state to state and county to county. For my case, South Florida generally tolerates 10 over but is still technically illegal. In my country, some people believe they can press charges against someone. You can't. You report a crime and the police decide if they are taking it further. It's not up to you whether charges are brought. You may want charges brought but the police drop the case. Alternatively, you can refuse to press charges and the police can bring a case anyway. It's harder without a victim or witness cooperation, but they still can. You do have a right to civil cases of course, but when people say press charges they believe they can do this via the police. US prosecutor here. In my state, there actually is a mechanism to file a private criminal complaint. Very few people have heard of it, but those that have are often mentally ill and/or conspiracy theorists. Our process is the person files the private criminal complaint with the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor can then either adopt the case and file formal criminal charges, or go in front of a judge with the person and convince the judge that the charges should not proceed. Technically, the judge could force the prosecutor to proceed, but I've never seen it happen. I've also only seen one private criminal complaint get adopted formally. When a private complaint is dismissed by the judge, the person usually files 5 more complaints against the prosecutor, the head prosecutor, the judge, the president judge, sometimes the governor, the president, etc. Then a substitute prosecutor has to come in to dismiss the complaints, which causes a whole new round of private complaints being filed. They are almost always a waste of time, but many times they are at least entertaining. Negligent motorcycle driver forced me to hit him from behind with my car. I was young and naive at the time. Never been in an accident until then. Guy makes me sign a paper that says that the accident is my fault because I hit from behind and wanted compensation. I explained the situation to my dad, and he concluded that the guy was obstructing normal traffic and I had no option but to hit him from behind in the particular circumstance. The guy ended up taking us to court, showed the judge the piece of paper that I signed. I explained that I signed it under duress and that he explained that by law whoever hits from behind is responsible for the accident. Judge looked him in the eye and asked him if that's true. He said yes. Then she asked him to point out which law states that. He just shut the duck up. Duck that guy. Good Samaritan laws aren't nearly as broad as people think. For context, I work in emergency services. Some people believe that I was trying to help are the magic words that can get them out of any sticky situation. Edit. Good, some laws vary by country and state, and the medical examples are a little more black and white than others. Adding a non-medical example of what I'm talking about, imagine you're driving your car and notice someone on the side of the road who needs help. As you swerve off the road to provide assistance to this person in need, you incidentally run over a child on the sidewalk. After the situation is over, you're definitely not free from the consequences of running over the child with your car just because you had good intentions of helping someone else. Versions of that story have occurred, and the drivers have tried to use a Good Samaritan defense because they meant well. There is absolutely some gray area on the subject, but if your unprompted action undoubtedly makes the situation worse than if you'd done nothing. Having good intentions is not a get out of jail free card, and a bunch of people don't understand that concept.